Let's talk about daylight, the original light source. This is the spectral power distribution of daylight, which is a full spectrum source. Really, daylight is a quality of light that we try to emulate with all artificial light. Daylight has been used in architecture since time immemorial. When you think back to the pyramids and ziggurats, Stonehenge, and even ancient Greece and Rome, things like the oculus that would shape the architecture of a space so that daylight would filter in. So we'd receive the benefits of the light without the heat of the day or the dust. And so we, in the architectural world, have always considered how to utilize daylight to get the most out of it. In the lighting lab, we're currently, we're in New York in the Northwest Hemisphere, and so we're big fans of north-facing windows. We like this because there's very little direct sunlight that gets through into the space from a north-facing window. I can catch little bits of it at the edge, but essentially the facade of the building is cutting off most of the direct sunlight, keeping us shielded from the heat of that sun as well as the high contrast of that light source. Whereas the blue dome of the sky is still providing us quite nice soft light. It's worth noting that in terms of how bright sunlight can get, we're talking about things that can get up to 6,000 foot candles, a lot of light delivered from direct sunlight. Very different from kind of the dome of the sky. We might be measuring 600 or 800 foot candles in here, but we're not talking about thousands. But even then, if our goal is to have 100 foot candles or even just 50 foot candles on a working plane, we want to be able to modulate and control how much light is coming from one side of the room. In this lighting lab, we have 5,000 Kelvin light sources, which we're mixing with this daylight. Really, the light coming through from the sky is typically 6,500 Kelvin from direct sunlight. The blue dome of the sky is usually around 8,000 Kelvin. And so the light that we have coming through the windows is significantly cooler in color temperature than most artificial light. In this particular case, we have adjusted the cameras to 5,000 Kelvin so that this scene should look a little bit more blue rather than perfectly white to your eye. The way that the biology of the human eye really works, your eyes would be adapting. And so this bluer quality of light, in fact, as you watch your computer screen, your eye, if the screen is the only light in the room, should be adapting so that this looks white. We'll go more into adaptation and color temperature in a little bit. But really, we think about daylight as an ideal source for our interiors, and so part of a lighting designer's role is to shape the way that light enters the building. For these north-facing windows, we don't need to do much. Just the fact that they're facing north has already kept me relatively comfortable. But for things like south-facing, east, and west, we have to utilize things like shades, blinds, or vertical blinds, and sometimes techniques like light shelves to help minimize glare and bounce more of the light into the room. In fact, I'll go ahead and close these shades so we get a sense of what the room looks like. So we've got the shades closing down automatically. These are full blackout shades, so the light that's going to be left here is just the interior light. This is, again, set to be a cool color temperature to try to mimic what's happening outside. It's gotten a lot darker now. We'd exposed our cameras for the daylight, and now we're just in the electric light. It's still plenty of light for me, and I will, for reference, show you the difference between the full spectrum of daylight. Let's take a measurement. The electric lighting is not nearly as full spectrum as the daylight. This has got some noticeable peaks. And we'll talk more about what's happening with it, the way that we use phosphors to mix white light. But everything is based off of and trying to mimic the beauty of daylight.